Time and again, Polygon often makes articles that are this is all about Cyberpunk. I haven't played the game, but it's not about Cyberpunk in of itself. It's not about the game. It's just about the genre. And it's kind of a little touchy here. So let's go ahead and read the article. Opinion piece. The cyberpunk genre has been Orientalist for decades, but it doesn't have to be. What do you mean? I mean, by that very nature alone, it's like if I said, did you know that Western genres have been, what's a name for white people? I don't know. Europeanist? I don't know. Are white people Europeans or white people I just don't care. Okay. But with that being said, what do you mean? Because with that, somebody at the very bottom, somebody was quoted. Hopefully I can find what they said. There, right there. I personally always thought that it was about showing that the world cultures have all collided and societal separation is no longer a thing. In all honesty, I never saw that, but that's a phenomenal take. The reason I always saw, Asians or Orientalists or Orientals being, if you want to use the word, which is, I don't know if that's a more correct terminology, whatever. Just go with the blanket term Asians. All those Asians, all those white people, all those black people, everyone's the same. Blanket slate offensive to everybody. I'm okay with that. I personally always thought that it was showing the world cultures have all collided and societal separation is no longer a thing. In Cyberpunk, all corporations are equally evil no matter what country of origin, and if you take a look at all the corporations' origins in Cyberpunk, I think you notice a nice mix. One thing about looking for differences is that you'll always find them. Focus too hard on finding those differences, and you'll start to label, separate, and divide. To be honest, that's a correct assessment. And then people, often in the comment section, which I'm gonna just read this one and move on, focus too hard on your own interpretations, and you'll miss wider context and connotations. I disagree with that entire thing because you focus too hard on your own interpretation. Well, can that not be said about yourself? If you focus too hard on you trying to how you view the wider context of connotations that you find to be most important. In all honesty, the moment that you start trying to find immutable characteristics within a show, within a movie, within a entertainment piece, within a comic book, within a book, within a play, when you start looking for immutable characteristics and the quote-unquote representation, how many of what is in where? How often is a white person being played? Now, is that a white person? Is that an Irish person? Is that a person from Germany? Is that a person from France? Well, you got to be more specific. Is it brown? Brown from, well, there's actually a few very, very tan Italians. There are very light-skinned Spanish people, people from Spain. And again, what's the difference between that? And the weirdest part about when you get into quote-unquote social justice warriorism is you start to focus on the immutable characteristics of somebody that if I can only watch a video, I can only watch a movie and internalize and relate with the character only if they are of my skin color, my sexuality, and my height, my age, my hair length, all these immutable characters, well, except for the hair length, except for those people who are going through cancer treatments, they are permanently bald. Gosh. Oh, I deserve to be banned just because of that joke. That or being slapped across the face. I think both of them are well-deserved, so... It's just the moment that you start looking at immutable characteristics like this, the moment it's like, well, okay, Black Lightning is a great example. Black Lightning was, I think, a CW TV show that I think only had one season. I thought the show was pretty darn solid. I'm personally not a fan of seeing sex and blood, like gruesome death, other than Punisher. Punisher is like I don't know. There's very few shows that I like to watch, like Law and Order SVU. I've said that before, but Law and Order SVU, I've seen it. Attack on Titan, I've seen every single episode. Probably watched Attack on Titan twice all the way through. I enjoy blood and guts in some things, but if I'm watching like Kung Fu Panda, a kid show, I don't want there to be sex just thrown in there. I don't feel like that's the right genre for it. If I'm watching a superhero show, one that's a little bit campy, I don't want to see sex in it. It's because, again, it feels campy. Campy and sex just doesn't really mix well. It's like a campy horror film. The genre is a campy horror. Not that a horror can't be campy at some places, but it's just, I don't know, that's how I look at it. So, the only issue that I had is that the daughter of Black Lightning, the children got power, all superpowers, and Black Lightning was kind of an interesting take because I think it was a blend between, or a spin-off of Static Shock, and I thought that was pretty interesting. I think that was from the DC Comics. I don't know if Black Lightning's, I think Black Lightning, no, Black Lightning and Static Shock, did they make their own? Did Black Lightning come before or after Static Shock, if it was in the comic books, or did they just create a new superhero? And that's a good question I'd like to have answered. But I thought the TV show, it was a little silly. It felt a little campy. It felt a little ridiculous. But I was okay with that. I got to see a superhero show, and they were, doing pretty good for at least the first 2 episodes of the first season, and then it got a little bit too woke for me. Like, they were pushing a little bit of an agenda, and now it's just like, I got other things I can do. So the moment, it has nothing to do with, okay. I'm not, Keanu Reeves, I love you. I love you in the very niche things that you can do. Not all the things you can do, the very niche things you do well. But the whole article starts off the basis of cyberpunk genre has been Orientalist for decades, but it doesn't have to be. Cyberpunk 2077 suffers from the same quote-unquote xenophobic tropes as its predecessors. For one of the things, I could bring up one argument, and I don't like bringing up this argument because I don't care about the argument. What about Westerns? Westerns are a bunch of dirty white people because no one has showers and no one has plumbing. Okay? With that being said, everyone's dirty, everyone's disgusting, and there's probably 1 or 2 good, solid people that are highlighted and brought above everybody. But they're all dirty. So I could say that they're all dirty white people. Why are you showing this? Like, why are you showing white people like that? It's so retarded. And the whole thing is Kazuma Hashimoto is the writer of this opinion piece. It is so weird for me to hear somebody complain about their ethnicity being an issue. Because, for example, it's weird for me to hear somebody say the trans community. Because that's weird. It's weird to have a quote-unquote community and point it out as, well, this community. The trans community? Okay, so my question is, what about the gay community? That's often said, but it still doesn't make any sense to me. What about the straight community? What do you mean the straight community? You mean the values and beliefs and ideologies and political affiliations that we have that are separate than... Like, you can have a culture of gay community, but they can all be Republican, or they can all be Democrat, or they can all be liberals, or conservatives, libertarians, or anarchists. Okay, but if we really want to get down to it, again, when you start saying the trans community, this community, Orientals, okay, what about quote-unquote Orientals? Is it the portrayal, like, for me, one of the greatest things that have ever come out of, like, the last 60 years, or not, about 50, 60 years ago, was Kung Fu movies. They were awesome. I grew up with Jackie Chan. I grew up with him. I watched his cartoon, Jackie Chan Jackie Chan Adventures. I don't know if it was if there was anything else called, but when he had to go hunt the talismans, and then when he had to go hunt, what was the second thing that he had to go hunt? and I only remember the first few seasons, and it's so weird for people to have this mindset. I was gonna go through this whole article, but it really is just a trash heap because you're starting from a piece of Orientals in Cyberpunk. Well, it's Cyberpunk 2077. All the lines are blurred. If you really want to look at the real world, yeah, China has a better economy right now because of how the United States and the majority of everywhere, except for like Australia, I think I've heard Australia is doing pretty well, has really messed up their economy trying to lock down certain places. And the dollar's kind of gone to crap because we've been printing millions and billions and trillions of dollars within the last year. Okay, so the dollar's going to probably be worth nothing. If we lose our quote-unquote oil money, then China might rise up and boom, that's more of just a reality type of thing. What does that have anything to do with me thinking that Chinese or Orientals should or shouldn't be here? It makes sense, right? They have the majority of the population. I think it's either that or India. I think India has like 2 billion. Yeah, I have no idea. I'm trying to like remember for the top of my head. So, just wake the F up, samurai. It's so interesting. It's so... when you start from the basis of xenophobia because you... man. This is so weird. Like, bless your heart, Kazumi Hashimoto. Is it Hashimoto or Hashi? That's Hashimoto. I'm going to go with Hashimoto. Bless your heart for thinking how you feel, thinking how you think, and feeling how you feel. You know what? I just hope you feel better about life. I really do. Because what would be amazing is if... it's just... Oh my gosh. I really had more to say to this. It's just the moment when you start, for me at least, when saying these things aloud, like, been Orientalist, I can't take that seriously. Because, xenophobic. Yeah, that's a trigger word for me for stop caring about this because, you're a racist, you're a bigot, you're a homophobe, you're a xenophobe, la 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 la. I've literally had a conversation with somebody because they, on Facebook, they unfriended me. We weren't friends to begin with, we were just Facebook shallow, you know this person, I know this person, and we never chatted ever. But they posted something about Christianity, and I was like, well, what do you mean by that? Like, this is... If you have this opinion, then why with this? And then they gave their opinion. I was like, that's wrong. And then they said, I don't like you. Oh, that's fascinating. To be fair, I wasn't maybe the quote-unquote most kind person, but I didn't offend. My intention was not to offend them. My intention was to be accurate. And that offended them, and they felt attacked by what I had to say, and they said to me that they didn't like me. Now, is that a very Christian thing to say? I don't like you. They literally said it, and they were laughing about it. That was fascinating. They even said, I stand by all the things that I have to say. My question was like, well, what if you're wrong? I didn't say that. I wanted to say that. I didn't say that, but that was one of the last things that they said, and they posted it on their channel before they unfriended me from Facebook. Is that, well, you stand by all the things that you said? What about the things that you were wrong about? I stand by everything. It's like, you sound like an idiot. That's the approach I was going at. Like, that doesn't sound right. I wasn't using as heavily inflated, overly charged words, but I did not hold my tongue when it come to being as accurate as I could. Like, this is the way that love is. But that doesn't make any sense to me. What about this? It's like, well, oh my gosh, blah, blah, blah. It was so funny. It doesn't make any sense for me. It doesn't make any sense for this to exist. This person is probably being paid 6 figures to have an opinion that I can't see being justified. I know that it gets the clicks. I know that brings in people, but the people that are clicking on this unironically, they don't make any sense to me. How do you get rid of racism? You stop caring about the other person's race. And if somebody else is actually doing it, move on, move beyond that. We literally live in a cyberpunk age where you can pick up your phone and make a six-figure salary. How? You start a YouTube channel. You go on Minds. You go on Locals. You start something. You start a movement. You start a community. Be proactive. Create something. There are people who are selling information digital products that they don't have to be the ones that actually sell it to you. They give you an email, you go to a website, and you go through their funnel that you keep clicking on, and then you have maybe a 10%, 15% chance of you actually opting in to the $50, $100, $200 product. And all they have to do is just copy paste and do it to as many people as possible with Facebook ads. How many people can I click on this funnel for people to go through this ad? 10% might actually opt in for the 50 to 100. And if I get $1,000 overall, it only takes $100 to get more ads out there for me to make another $1,000. Why shouldn't I be doing that? If you want to make money online, you can. I don't understand it. It doesn't make any sense for anybody to be looking at the world this way. Because the moment that you want me to look at the world this way, I don't think you'll like what I have to say. And thus, you'll call me a xenophobic. You'll call me a racist. It just doesn't make any sense. It's like I want to play by the same rules. If you really want to make a cyberpunk that's awesome, have everybody that's black. Okay, how do you do that? Let's create that right now. I could probably offend a bunch of people. It's like, oh, they're all from Africa. No. What if you have it like this? A bunch of, like, 90% of the people that are in this little story for the first 15 minutes of this just movie I'm making up off the spot. The first 15 minutes, you could have 90% of them are all black. The thing is that they probably came from Kenya or something. Oh my gosh, it sounds ethno-nationalist or whatever. It's like, oh my, yes. The majority of people from certain countries have their ethnicity, quote-unquote, tied to whatever their country that they came from. But they come to Cyberpunk, not to come to Cyberpunk, they come to England or something. They go to they come from Kenya, I was going to say South Africa. They go to Australia, maybe in the middle of nowhere, and they actually created a little quote-unquote hut, a little quote-unquote tribe, a little village. But the village is actually is being helped by little small robots, and those robots are able to help them connect to the internet and help them find out information about what they can actually do and start to make a plantation. Oh my gosh, it sounds so racist. And actually making fields, and they're trying to get off of the network as much as possible, but the network always tries to consume itself. So anybody connected to the network, you have a high likelihood of the network trying to come and get you. Like a self-replicating virus that eats itself, eats the host, parasite. And the network in of itself, the AI, is alive, and it doesn't matter. You could probably have a very what's the name when it's not male, androgynous. That's the word, androgynous and colorless type of person. It may have a very general voice that's indistinguishable from one to another. Maybe it has a robotic voice. Maybe it switches the voice and the tonality of that, and that's how you can blend it. But it's not about stories are to unfold naturally. Because we now set the standard, now that we set the stage, these things exist. We have a group of people that want to be off the grid, but they find themselves needing the grid for them to find better ways to be better off the grid, and that's something that they may have to be fighting against. That do we surrender to the machine, or do we abandon it altogether? And that could be the message at the very end. What does that have anything to do with, like, a bunch of Chinese, a bunch of Koreans in the show, a bunch of black people, a bunch of Africans, a bunch of Kenyans, a bunch of Jamaicans? They're in the show. So what? That can be a starting place. But what people do in the show, that's the only thing that makes sense to me. You can have it with the real world. Certain ethnicities do tend to pair with one another. Doesn't mean that that's the overall, nor the goal, nor should we even value that as a whole. It's just a natural process. So one thing we should probably be doing is, once we have these natural realities existing, what is the ultimate end of the story? Okay, let's just have, if you don't want if you don't want Orientals to be in a show and be seen and have Cyberpunk always have Chinese people or Japanese culture, Chinese culture always being the part of quote unquote Cyberpunk, well then how about this? We get rid of all of them. like when will you ever be happy when you're valuing an immutable characteristic rather than you're trying to create something? If you want to create something, grow a pair. Like metaphorically speaking, because if you can physically do that, I'll give you a cookie. If you can really grow a pair, I will give you a cookie. A metaphorical cookie, you will have to imagine me giving you a metaphorical cookie from a comment that I may or may not give to you specifically. It's very user heavy. It's maybe not family friendly. I don't know. If you could grow a pair, please don't go show your family right away. Please consult a medical doctor right away. Anyways, that's what I have to say about this. It doesn't make, you know what, Keanu, I absolutely agree. It's like when we have this Cyberpunk in of itself, I'm now blanking on the show, Ghost in the Shell. Ghost in the Shell is a phenomenal story. Now, I think Scarlett Johansson's version, the live-action version, is a bit silly. Her acting is way off in it. If she was more natural and not in a robotic sense, but she was allowed to be feminine, allowed to be natural. In the first few movies of her being Black Widow, and again, that's just the few that I'm actually be mentioning, she was a little bit more robotic, if not trying to be an assassin, trying to play the part, trying to be subtle, trying to be something. But then when she got to relax around the people that she was working with, when she was an Avenger, we got to see her allowed to be acting because she felt more natural and was more open. So when she flirted with Bruce Banner, regardless of whether or not I liked that or not, I felt like she was pretty good in it. She felt natural in doing it. When she was the one person that touched the hand of the Hulk, it felt natural. It felt natural to me for her to do that. And if anybody, of one person to do that, not the one, it's actually phenomenal story-wise because it actually requires her to be part of this, part of the team if she's one of the people that can actually calm him down and revert him back to Bruce Banner. That's pretty interesting of a story. And it has nothing to do with her ethnicity. I don't care. What if Bruce Banner was... Actually, it'd be kind of interesting if Bruce Banner was part of, he was an Iraqi origin. Okay, that'd be kind of cool. But then we're going to move on. Okay, what does he do? We can have maybe the culture of wherever he comes from, and it doesn't even have to be of the quote-unquote stereotypical Iraqi. He could just be a gamer from Iraq, who happens to be a gamer in maybe one of the places that has not had such a great history. And that could be something that plays often, but the thing is what are you doing with that? Something that transcends where you are to where are you going. So if you really want to have quote-unquote representation, have something that's moving beyond what we are right now, beyond that. So the best way of doing that is you could set the stage of everyone being an Oriental. You can set the stage of everyone being of European descent. I don't know how to really use these ethno words. You set the stage for that. And then you can do whatever you want. When you allow the world to unfold, there's natural consequences for people to do certain things. And if anything, we having Orientals, the culture of Oriental, you could have Chinese culture, whatever, I don't care, which I actually do enjoy. If anything, Japanese anime is one of the... Japanese anime is far superior than Chinese anime. I'm just pointing that out. I'm not saying Japanese anime is far superior to... As a whole, there is so much wrong with a lot of anime that's being produced, but that's more of a personal problem, so I'm going to have to deal with it. But okay, we're in this culture, and then you could, it's so weird. Again, you can have a Western without any white people. You can have a Western where it's a bunch of black people who are released, and at that time they were quote unquote prisoners, they were slaves, and then they were released, or they ran away and they became Westerns, and they're ones who want to free people, but then maybe the actions that they take have negative consequences on the people around them. Maybe you freed a couple of slaves. Well, what happened from that? Maybe your method of doing it may have inspired them to go beyond saving and and they become radicals, where they both kill the slave owner and some of the slaves for being happy for being slaves with people who treated them very well. And it's like, oh, how dare you, and then burned everybody. It's like, whoa, no. Like, that could be a natural process of, it's not about the current circumstance, it's what happens as a consequence. And it's important to highlight these certain things, but you're being paid so much money for why? I don't get it. Because you call xenophobic trope, it's xenophobic? How is it xenophobic? I don't get you, Kazuma Hashimoto. I really don't. And that's the end of that chapter. Thank you very much for being a part of this. And please like, share, and subscribe. I'm done with this article. I'm really done. Please like, share, subscribe. Please give this video a like, a comment. It takes only but 10 seconds. It really does help out this channel. I would love to hear from you. And I'll see you next time. Yeah, that's where we'll end it. Do-do-do-do-do-do.